So in this segment, we're going to be discussing, Labour being questioned on the single market and customs union stuff. Obviously, we can't just rejoin the single market. I've covered that, ad nauseum, despite the fact that other commentators still don't understand that, despite the fact that I've told them to their face over, Zoom that it can't happen, but they don't believe whatever. Facts and logic are out the window here. But Labour MPs are being confronted with the reality of this. So I wanted to kind of discuss Labour versus the Lib Dems on this specific policy. So let's have a listen to this clip here.
Does stronger cooperation with the EU mean, for example, a new customs agreement?
Well, we've always said that some of the red lines as part of that reset is no return to the customs union, to the single market, or to free movement. And
so why they've said no to the customs union, I have no idea. Given that the customs union has nothing to do with immigration, it's just about external tariffs and things like that.
And that remains the case.
So absolutely no movement on any of that.
Well, of course, what you want to do is to have to get rid of some of the bureaucracy around some of the customs arrangements as goods cross borders, but that's about actually us reducing bureaucracy because, frankly, the deal that the previous Conservative government got actually was not a good one in terms of making sure we can reduce the bureaucracy and help businesses trade better.
Well, let's test that out. How are you getting on with negotiating a youth mobility scheme with the EU?
Well, we've been clear that we need net migration to come down. Under the Conservatives, net migration quadrupled in the space of 4 years. That was the wrong thing for...
So this is going to be one of the issues for the Labour Party, because I've seen people keep saying this youth mobility scheme is going to happen. The only thing they're trying to do is figure out the wording and things like that around it. Now, Labour could change the rules around this youth mobility scheme, so it's not, classed as part of the immigration figures. I think they can do that. Because these are only temporary people, or what will happen is you'll get a load of people come in, and then the next year or within about 2 years you'll have a load of people go out because their visa expires. Things like that, typically that's why freedom of movement, I think the numbers were quite low even when we had it, was because a lot of people came to the UK temporarily and then they left, which kept the figures lower because it's about the net number. But this net immigration thing, this is what I've been saying for ages. Freedom of movement will be the biggest hurdle for people who are pro-EU but don't understand why more people aren't more pro-EU. It's because there's a group of people in this country who hate foreigners.
The UK, so we're clear that net migration needs to come down. So that's why this is not an approach that we are looking for.
So no youth mobility scheme?
That's not the right starting point for us at all, because what we need to do is to bring net migration down, and we're clear that has to mean, for example, recognising that it's work migration that massively increased at the same time as training in the UK was plummeting. That's really damaging.
Okay, and I'm not entirely sure I got a clear answer, forgive me, I missed it, on a customs arrangement.
Well, no to the customs union. That's what we said.
Not the union, but maybe something that...
So they're talking about the customs union. They're going to try and be pedantic and say a customs union. But, it doesn't, I don't get why they're being pedantic here. What the issue was with the customs union anyways. Maybe it's because of the association with the EU. But I think the Pan-European Mediterranean deal, whatever it's called, PEM, I believe that's a kind of customs union.
Would make things easier. For example, joining what is called the Pan-European Mediterranean Convention, that maybe would take away some of those frictions.
I mean, I think the Chancellor said, look, we'll look at reducing ways to reduce frictions. That's absolutely the right thing to do, but we're not returning to a customs union. But those are all the sorts of things that, if you look at, what are the different ways in which you...
She's meant to be one of Labour's better operators. She's been around for a while. I think she was there under the Blair years. This is Labour's supposedly one of the slicker operators. I'm just not seeing it, guys. I think I've watched the party just die. Kendrick Lamar. I think that's how I feel about the Labour Party. And you've got that from Stefanovic, who is a big Labour supporter, I believe, and you've got from Farouk here, who I think is another one. Shame on the Labour Party for being utterly so pig-headed. It used to be Conservatives who were the blockers of economic growth. Now it's Labour. Tragic. And when you pair that with Rachel Reeves talking about the importance of growth, and all of this stuff, right? You've got Labour's core aim is to restore stability, increase investment, and reform our economy. That would be in rejoining the EU. Now, in their defence is, the manifesto and all of this stuff. But they have broken promises before. They have broken promises already, citing the fact that their mandate is to get growth within the economy. Well, if the EU were to take us back, obviously it's a long process. Some countries have been in the process for joining the EU for over a decade. But if you want something that creates buzz and excitement, which the Labour Party are obsessed with, that's why they keep talking about this new runway at Heathrow, despite the fact that it won't be open for decades. And that's what they want. They want people to talk about growth constantly, so that the public think things are happening when they're really not. You've got Clive Lewis, a Labour MP, saying that the government's growth mission reeks of panic, which I agree with. They have absolutely no idea what to do here. They had such a doomer budget and such kind of doomerism around the budget, and that their poll numbers collapsed, and they don't know how to bring it back because this lot they're not good at politics. You can make the argument, yes, they won, at the last election big. They got 36% of the vote. That's pathetic for a winning party. They are not popular at all. No one likes these people. The only difference is we hate the last lot more. But, mark my words, they will see a major collapse in support during the next election. It will be horrendous, guys. Absolutely horrendous. Brexit has some benefits, says Number 10 on its anniversary. So the Prime Minister believes Brexit has some benefits, Downing Street said on the 5th anniversary of the UK leaving the European Union. A Number 10 spokesperson pointed to freedom from EU regulations, helping to make the UK a more competitive financial hub. However, Starmer said he wanted to make Brexit work for the British people, whatever. Right? Point being is, around the financial hub, that's code for deregulation, because Rachel Reeves is looking at kind of deregulating things around pension funds so that they can be used for more investments. This is what Jeremy Hunt was looking at as well. I'm not sure the specific protections the EU has around pension funds and investments. I think pension funds have to have a certain amount of illiquid assets so they can sell them off easily. Whereas, Jeremy Hunt, and I guess Rachel Reeves in this case, wants them to be able to invest more in illiquid assets. So pension funds, have to invest in liquid assets so they can sell them off easily. They have to have certain percentages. Whereas in this case, what I think Rachel Reeves and Jeremy Hunt wanted to do previously was to get them to invest more in things like wind farms and things like that, stuff that can't be sold off easily, in order to generate growth, because those pension funds do have a lot of money. It's just they can't invest in certain things. And so, Jeremy Hunt and Rachel Reeves, I'm not seeing a big difference between the two, but that's just me. That's just me. Discussing growth as well. Here's Rachel Reeves discussing why the UK wouldn't, rejoin the customs union single market.
2 days' time, you'll probably know, it'll be 5 years since we left the European Union. Again, businesses will have said to you what they say to me is they want us to rejoin the customs union and the single market. Why won't you do that?
Because we're going to deliver on our manifesto promises.
But the Prime Minister says if it's good for growth, you'll do it, and if it's bad for growth, you won't. This is...
There you go. That's it right there, And this is what I mean, they broke many of their green promises in terms of investment, because they kept talking about, the need for growth and the fiscal rules. That was their two defences are always the fiscal rules and growth, right? So why is it that, when it comes to the EU, that's the only exception, despite the fact that would get us the most growth? Is it because they don't want to piss off certain voters and they don't want to enable Reform UK? But the thing is, if they don't get growth, fair enough, we're not going to rejoin the EU within the next parliament, within this one or the next one. But if you want to create excitement and buzz around investment, that's one of the actions you would take. So I don't understand it.
Good for growth.
Robert, we went to the country just over 6 months ago with a manifesto, and I know it's unusual for governments to actually want to stick to their manifesto commitments, but...
Yeah, it's unusual for you guys as well, because you don't want to stick to your promises either. 28 billion for green investment.
We will, but subject to that, we do want to do things to improve our trade relationship with our nearest neighbours and trading partners. That's why we're resetting that relationship.
That's what I mean. It's all optics. These guys are obsessed with looking busy, looking like they're doing stuff. Maybe it's because they had a life in middle management and they had to always prove why they were valuable to the company, because they never really did anything. That's what middle managers generally are, people who don't really do much. Maybe that's why they're always trying to look busy, constantly flying out to different countries. And not achieving much. It's clear the EU wants something from the UK, like accepting the youth mobility scheme as a kind of show of a sign that the UK is kind of more pro-EU in that sense, in terms of immigration, because the EU sees things like freedom of movement important for integration between different countries, and it has made, I think, a big difference with certain countries, going there, being able to speak to people there, and it does change your views of them. When I was in the few kind of European countries I went to, the place I went to, Berlin and Amsterdam, when I met those people, Prague even as well, when I met people there, it does change my view of that country, of, these are really nice, welcoming, friendly people, and it does kind of create a stronger bond between, I think, countries. That's just my opinion, anyways. Maybe it's a bit too liberal and a bit too fairy. Who knows? This is kind of the Lib Dems discussing this.
Well, I don't think anyone would be surprised that the Liberal Democrats are pro-European. In the long term, we believe we should be back at the heart of Europe. But let's also be clear, that's a long way off, regrettably. The truth is, our relationship with our European friends has been so damaged by the Conservatives on all levels that our European colleagues don't trust us.
And rightfully so. Trust is something you earn. When you damage the trust, like I'd argue the British public have with European politicians, but also the European people, the other European people, trust is very difficult to rebuild. There's a good Thor quote on it, but I can't remember it.
Need to be realistic about that. It's going to take some time. And I said this at the election. We put forward a set of proposals that over this Parliament we could begin to build back the relationship painstakingly. And I think we could potentially turbocharge that if Keir Starmer goes on Monday and opens negotiations for a UK-EU customs union.
I agree with that 100%. The UK has to show goodwill here, but I think that youth mobility scheme will be a sticking point for a while. And, the Lib Dems talking about how they'll be surprised at the next election.
We're going to be the surprise of the next election.
I think Reform UK will be the surprise of the next election. Either they do really well and win a lot of seats, which some people will find surprising, or they fold and they don't do very well despite their polling numbers. And that'll be a surprise.
If you look at what we're doing in Parliament, it's Liberal Democrats who are holding the government to account. I set ourselves a task of being the best opposition. The Conservatives are probably the worst opposition we've ever had. They're divided. They've got no credibility on the economy or the NHS, and they're chasing after reform. And it's the Liberal Democrats who are holding the government to account, whether it's on winter fuel payments, with
It's all boomer policies.
on the appalling tax on family farms, or whether it's on things like the national insurance. And we're putting forward alternative policies. So on this programme last time, we talked about social care.
Talked a lot about social care,
and the government have come forward with a proposal.
Davy's obsessed with social care. I think they're going to look to take that voting block away from the Conservatives, the kind of older vote. They're going to look to try and win that, I think, which will make sense for them.
For a cross-party review, which we've argued for, but they've got a 3-year timetable, Laura. We think it could be done this year, and it's essential to do that for the millions of carers, but also to help out NHS. If you don't reform social care, as we talked about last time, you won't sort out the NHS. So
I believe that review's been kicked into 2027/28, I think. West String's kicked that one into the long grass. So yeah.
We're the ones leading that argument, and as Fraser said earlier on your panel, they've got review after review. We want some action, whether it's on the customs union or on social care.
Okay.
And so I think the Lib Dems keep pushing this angle. What they need to do is more pro-youth policies as well. I think if they want to do well, I think it's not just the older people they need to win over; it's the younger people as well. And they'll predominantly focus their energy in the south of England. And so it'd be interesting to see what areas they're kind of fighting against the Green Party. But I think with Labour being pulled one direction by the Green Party, a slightly different direction by the Lib Dems, and also in a completely opposite direction by the UKIP, well, basically the Reform Party, I think Labour will be in big trouble. I think, in my heart, I think the Reform Party will be the big surprise of the next election, but we've got a while until we get there. But anyways, let me know what you think in the comments below. Like, comment, share, subscribe, support the channel on Patreon if you can, and hopefully I'll see you in the next one.